Hey, Monique,
Hey, what?
I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Today's topic in the episode is about that word, love. How much do you say it? Do you hold it in? Do you look at it as a scarce resource? Or do you tell the people in your life that you love them? I have some deep thoughts about this topic, and I'm excited to explore them in the episode today. Welcome to Heart and Soul, the podcast where we empower and inspire women to lead their best lives, harnessing the power of their hearts and souls. We are Mariah
And Monique.
your hosts and guides on this journey of self-discovery and personal growth.
In each episode, we will dive deep into topics that matter most to you, from self-love and confidence to career development, relationships, and everything in between. We believe that every woman has a unique strength and inner wisdom waiting to be unleashed.
Join us as we cover insightful heart and soul-centered topics and interview incredible women who've overcome challenges, chased their dreams, and found their true purpose. Through all of this, you will discover practical tips, strategies, and real-life stories to help you navigate life's twists and turns.
For whatever season of life you're in, this podcast is your safe space to explore, learn, grow, and possibly even laugh and cry with us. So grab your headphones, maybe your favorite drink, and we'll embark on this transformative journey together.
With heart, I'm Mariah.
And with soul, I'm Monique. So we call ourselves the Heart and Soul podcast mastermind, heart and soul people, right?
Collective.
Yeah, all of it.
It's just become our brand.
It kind of has. And we really created this brand because each of the aspects of heart and soul represent the work we do. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to share a little bit about, each of our, why each of us kind of have these tags of your heart, I'm soul. And you also were talking about this concept of heart and love and wanted to share about it. And so we're having the conversation about not only why you're the heart of heart and soul,
Yeah.
but also what these thoughts and ideas about love are around. So please take the floor.
Thanks, Monique.
Yes.
I remember us sitting riffing on what we would call ourselves and our brand if we had one, which is just crazy that
we
here
do.
we are. And it came to me so quickly, like, I'm the heart and you're the soul, partly because I'm in the wedding industry. My entire world is surrounded by love and this concept. And also I'm just a lover. Like, I've done archetyping and different personality testing. And I always just come back on the spectrum of I'm a lover.
Yes,
I really love life. I love everything. I look for the best in people and figure out how to love them even when it's hard. So I remember thinking well, how about heart and soul? And maybe I didn't say this first. I can't actually remember.
One of us did, yeah.
But it came out and we were like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it totally represents us.
It really does.
Yes.
And living life with heart and soul is such just a beautiful way to live that we have both worked on embracing.
Yes.
In our lives before, but also after meeting each other and working together. So with that, I think a lot about love in my life because it's something that I prioritize and care about so much from work through personal. And I recently just had this reflection that I shared with you, and we both agreed right away this would be a really interesting topic. That love is underutilized. And I know that I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it, but here's the story. So I grew up in a very loving home, 100%. I would never say that it wasn't a loving home.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that is formative in why I am who I am. I mean, both of my parents
are amazing.
They're great.
Yes.
Poured so much love into my sister and I. There was never any question of being loved. Also our grandparents, it was just super loving home. But I remember growing up a distinct awareness that you would not share that term outside of your family. Mm-hmm. You didn't just say to people I love you. Mm-hmm. You would only say that to your
family,
immediate family.
Yes, it's true.
And even was hard for people, not necessarily my immediate family, but I've seen this in people I've worked with and known and been friends with. Like, even sharing that within a family isn't normal or
Agreed.
common or frequent for people.
Yes.
Like, part of that being tradition or like origin of family. I grew up in a very Scandinavian environment, which is more of often
stoic.
reserved, stoic.
Right.
You really tempered with your emotions. And so I just had this understanding of the term love that you didn't share it abundantly. Like, you felt it and you loved the people that you were related to, but you wouldn't just say that to somebody else.
You certainly would not.
Yeah, so
Right.
you relate to this.
Absolutely.
Like,
I feel like
recognize this.
Yes, I feel
Yeah.
like it was almost like an unwritten thing. Like, I love my puppy. I love my sister. I love my mom and my dad. But like, we now as adults like share how we love each other, but you would never have done that to a girl when you were like a girlfriend when you were young, right?
Yeah,
or
totally.
whoever.
And I started reflecting on like how I evolved in my comfort level with using the term love. And even more recently, I mean, like, it's okay to love and use the word love to embrace people in your life outside of those immediate relationships, be it your spouse or your partner, your children, your family, because love can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I just like light up when I say that, because when I finally let myself just love actually on people, my entire relationship with the feeling changed. And now I get excited about it. I embrace it.
Yes.
Like, I actually work at practicing it and telling it to people. And like with you, like,
Yes.
love you, bye,
I
right?
know,
Like,
I know.
because I can love you as a friend,
Right.
as a co-creator, as a travel buddy, all the things that we do together. And when you share that sentiment and you compartmentalize that love that you have for that person or that activity or whatever it is, like, you can really live into that relationship. And so it's been a really interesting journey and pretty recent of realizing, like, rather than fight that or find that odd or awkward or uncomfortable.
Yes.
I mean, why not embrace it?
Agreed.
If somebody says that to me, I'm
Right.
like, oh, they love me.
I know. Like,
Oh,
whoa.
wow.
Wow.
That's okay. It is okay to share those feelings, that affirmation with somebody else. Love doesn't have to be guarded
Yes.
or hid or tucked in a box and only reserved for the person you marry or
your kids or your puppy.
children or your birth family.
Right.
I mean, you can find love with a human on the street. Like, you really can. Like,
You
an
really
act
can.
of love is helping somebody in need. An act of love is taking care of yourself.
That's
like
beautiful.
Self-love, right?
Right.
I mean, that's something that people really struggle with.
Yes.
And it's a topic that we could go on and on about. But even starting with that, like, would you ever have thought to say growing up or in the past, like, I love myself? Oh, that could be looked at as egotistical.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Oh, well,
Full of yourself.
full of yourself.
Yes.
What if I just love myself
Right.
and that's okay?
So I have a thought or idea about this. Unless, I don't want to cut you off, but yeah.
please, I'm like, I just want to talk about
Yeah.
this because I do not think that it's something I've heard talked about. Mm-hmm. And it's really been playing in my head as something I want to start talking about. And I even want to have these conversations with like people in my life and breaking down those barriers and that.
That was
hesitancy.
yes, that is exactly what I'm curious. So I feel like potentially, and please like fill me out on this. People maybe don't say it or have not been comfortable saying it because it maybe lends to just who do I think I am, right? Like, don't you feel like sometimes people like, I'm out here doing all of the things, living so grand and great, and and oh, I love everybody. And they're like, oh God, nauseation, right? Like
Yeah.
there's this judgment, I
Yeah.
feel, that maybe has stopped people from like claiming their love of their self, their love of their life. Like you were saying, like almost like a shame
Yeah.
that is an undercurrent of us embracing and leaning into just being lovers. And I don't mean that sexually,
Yeah.
romantically.
Yeah.
I mean just like loving our lives and like, my God, I have a really great life, but wait a minute. Put a lid on this, because if I claim and own that, then there's going to be 20 people down the line being like, really? Who do you think you are? I don't know. What do you think about that? Like the judgments that are out there?
Well, I think it speaks to like that you should hold back or reserve this feeling, this emotion for a very specific
Yes.
use, which is interesting too, because I'm not a particularly religious person. I would say I've become more spiritual over time. But love is absolutely a topic that is in all of mainstream practices, religions, like shared freely, right? But yet, societally and culturally, different people hold it, reserve it back, because there seems to be some sort of a judgment or expectation of when it's okay
to use it.
Yes.
And
it's literally a semantic, like it's a word. But I think that word, and as we've learned in our work, like words really carry action and feeling. And if you lean into using those words, and if you actually share that, it has great weight.
Yes.
And I think that the great weight to me is, I've realized, really amazing to share with more people. Why am I holding on to something that I can give freely? And that's, again, decoupled from obviously the world of dating and romantic relationships and all of that. But so many people use that as their measure of how to use the word love. But you can use it across the spectrum of all of the aspects of your life.
So maybe this whole theory, idea, topic came up for you because we want to really demystify in it amongst our audience and ourselves what it means when you say that you love someone. It's not just a romantic love. It's not just a familial love. It can be like, go girl, I love you so much. I've got your back, whatever the thing is. Hey, dude on the street, look at you loving what you're wearing, like, or, love you, bye. Like, just demystify like that. It has to be so like big and, and it can't be a positive thing or, I mean, it is a positive thing, but sometimes, I mean, there's this judgment, I guess, right?
When I think about it, when I really say to somebody, like, I love you, it can be like, I love your essence.
Yes.
I love who you are.
Right.
It's an appreciation of something about that human that has brought something to me.
Yes.
It's just like looking at people with loving eyes and seeing through like an exterior.
Oh, I feel it.
Dropping the judgment about why they are the way they are. I mean, there really like is something to love in everybody, because everybody's had a story that has gotten them where they are, but it doesn't mean that they're not worthy of love.
Absolutely.
And I've heard people over the years, like the feeling, so, okay, I watched a lot of The Bachelor. This is a little bit
Big
about me.
surprise.
So it's like always this topic of like, I haven't found love. I'm not worthy of love. Like there's just so much of that. And I think, oh, that is sad, because everybody is worthy of love.
Yes.
From like, again, from your barista or from your, like all the people in your life, like work on cultivating that feeling within yourself and within your everyday relationships.
Yes.
As just something that can be simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to involve more intense emotion than just sharing love.
I was just thinking when you were talking too, another possible barrier for people being comfortable using the word love in the way that you're talking about could be maybe the vulnerability that it elicits within them to actually tell someone that they love them, or that they like love a part of them or something like that, because it could like trigger maybe a fear of rejection. Like,
Sure.
oh, I love them, but do they love me? I'm not
Yeah.
going to be the first one to say it, because, you know, like,
Yeah.
so maybe that's where the judgment comes from as well, or the hesitation from using this word. But I do feel like the concept or idea of just loving freely, loving to love, not because you're needing something in
Oh
return.
my gosh, yes. I like how you said that.
Right?
Loving
Like,
to love.
Right. Just because you are lovable, and because like love is, it's the energy. Think about the energy of love. Like when you just give it, you're going to get it back, but trusting that it's going to come back, and it doesn't need to come back from the object that you're telling you love. You know, like it's just going to ripple back to you.
You have to give it without expectation
Yes.
of a return.
Yes.
And you have to receive it without judgment or prejudice either around like, well, what do they really mean by that?
Yes.
Right? Like,
right.
it just is.
That's loaded for some people, and I get that, because
So-
maybe they've been burned, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the work I had to do within my own brain and within my own story of origin, is just to think, oh, like there's no meaning behind that other than like, they just love me because I'm great and I love myself. And so therefore
Right.
that's not that hard to connect the dots, right? Like
Right.
it gets easier to connect the dots if you simplify it, break it down, demystify it, and just accept that like, oh, that felt good.
Yes.
And it can feel good to say it back, or to share it with the next person that you come across that touches you in a way that sparks that
Yes.
emotion. And you know, there's a whole range of emotions we can share with people, like, oh, you know, you delight me, you or your energy makes me sad. Like, you know, there's everybody, you're gonna have this energetic exchange with people. But when you feel like love is a description of that relationship, it's okay to say it.
And love too, if you think about the energy of it, it's an infinite source.
No,
It's not a limited thing.
Why do we have to limit it?
We don't.
That is exactly
That's
the
the
essence
thing.
of this entire conversation. Who's putting a limit?
Right.
Where does the limit exist?
Right.
Where did that even come from? Why did I
Right.
feel limited in sharing that? And again, just because it wasn't talked about. It wasn't brought into the open as this thing that you could share. There became this expectation that you held it back. And I just felt like I'm ready to break that for myself.
Yes.
I hope.
Well, and I think you're probably really like just a normal person. So if you have these barriers,
Right.
I have these barriers, I'm sure our listeners, everyone has these barriers. So by us having this conversation around it, hopefully like just makes it like, hey, the energy of love is abundant. There's no,
Unlimited.
it's limitless.
Yep.
Let's just love to love, because we know when we put something out there, it comes back to us in return. And you want love? Oh, put it out there without
the
an
best way to
expectation.
get it.
Yes,
Right.
right.
To
So
put it out there without expectation.
Right.
You will turn around, the door will open, and you'll feel it right back at you. It is. It's a source in the universe, and it's unlimited, and everybody has free will to partake. And when you do, it really changes the way you see yourself, the way you see others, and like the joy that you have in the life that you're living. And I know this has been talked about, and it's not like I've, invented this topic whatsoever.
Right.
But I think my personal journey with this
Yes.
is maybe something like people wouldn't know about me, right?
Right.
And like you said, my experience is interesting coming that I don't in any way, shape, or feel like I didn't come from a loving home, right? Just the culture that I grew up in. But what about somebody who really didn't hear that word even at home?
Yes.
How hard is it for them to share that emotion? And so even bigger barriers to break down, even more important to be thinking about this topic and the way they use this word. And then it does, from that point, go into relationship. And I love to talk about relationships and, romantic and friendship and all of that. Obviously, again, I'm heart-centered.
Yes.
But it's just really like simplifying, going back to that word, that feeling, that energy, and getting yourself to share it more openly, breaking down the barriers and recognizing that it is not a limited resource. How cool is that?
It's amazing. It's a
Yeah.
great topic, actually.
There's no amount you can tell your children that you love them too much.
Right.
There's literally, in my parenting philosophy, which feel free to challenge, but you just can't love on them enough.
I agree. And this came to me when we were talking. I read this years ago, that as creators, we both kind of like are in this really creative realm, right? It is impossible to create anything of substance, people, whatever, without the presence of love. So in that regard, it's sort of one of the foundational blocks of life is love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just that energy needs to be present for us to be able to create. I'm sure people have created out of the lack of love, but really to create anything beautiful and meaningful and substantial and maybe sustainable, long-term sustainable, love needs to be present. I think when you create out of fear, it's never the result we want.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly live by and have come to live by abundance over scarcity and an abundance of love over a scarce resource. This falls exactly into that entire realm of thought.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to take this platform, this podcast, to talk about it, put it out in the open. Like, did you feel odd saying someone that you loved them that wasn't a romantic relationship or your family? And how did it make you feel to break through that barrier? Could you do that? Do you want to do that more? Like, I just want to talk about it. I think that's a really, I don't know, it's a hot button issue.
It is.
I also recently, a couple years ago, was introduced to a concept of two-way journaling. Elizabeth Gilbert is a famous author, Eat, Pray, Love. Many others love her. She's just a fascinating human. She talks about this notion of two-way journaling. But what I really loved about this concept and have started to do myself, and she now actually has a Substack where she talks about this practice and is really trying to bring it into more people's lives, is you write to yourself in your journal from love. And you know, again, replace it with whatever word embodies that for you, whether it be God, the universe.
Right.
But she talks about it in terms of love, like, love, what would you have me know today? Oh. And it is the absolute most
so sweet,
incredible practice.
Yes.
And it's hard to wrap your mind around it. But when you write this in your journal, the prompt, and then you just start writing afterwards, it's a bizarre feeling, but your pen just flies on the paper and you tell yourself what you need to hear. What love is telling you.
Yeah, that energy of love.
Yes. It comes through you on the page.
So beautiful.
So I really I absolutely go out and seek more of Elizabeth Gilbert's advice. And, you know, she's really the one talking about it right now. But it's a practice that might be really helpful in connecting to that self-love and directing yourself towards, like, what do you need to hear? Like, what do you really need to hear from within and from that abundant universal love?
Yeah, coming back to like what you were saying about with parenting, right? Yeah. You just can't love your kids enough. You can't say it enough. Similarly to ourselves, right? Yes. We probably can't hear it enough, say it enough to ourselves for self-love. And when's the last time we had those conversations? So that's a powerful exercise that you were just describing.
Having that conversation with yourself. So kind of to summarize or bring all of this full circle, you know, use this conversation however works for you, but in thinking about your relationship with that term, taking it just as a something to meditate on, to journal about, reflect on. And I would love to have dialogue with people. I'm just putting my intention out there, or manifesting, starting this conversation about that term and how we use it and how we could use it more abundantly.
Yes.
So I love you, Monique.
I love you, Mariah. I feel it.
Yes, I feel it. And I love the work that we do together.
Same.
I love that we now have this platform to share it. You know, I have these deep thoughts quite a bit. And I will call you up and be like, I have to tell you something. And now I think I have to make this a podcast topic. So
It's good to have a deep thought, buddy.
Yeah. And I'm excited to keep sharing these deep thoughts because hearing other people share them in these similar mediums is what really motivates me.
Yes.
So there
Inspiring.
it is. That's our topic for today. So share with us on social media, on our Instagram page. We'd love to hear what you thought about this. If you enjoyed what you listened to, absolutely follow us. Leave us a 5-star review, and tune in for more episodes as we come up with more deep thought topics like this. And I just encourage everybody to have a loving day.
Love you, friends.
So with that, I'm Mariah. With heart, I'm Mariah.
And with soul, I'm Monique.